Hey guys, I'm down here. This is going to be my chapter review to One Punch Man 101 Zombie Man. Now, this chapter's been out for a couple of days, so I really wanted to get on this review before the podcast, which will be tomorrow evening. So, tomorrow evening GMT, so it should be like 6 p.m. EST, 11 p.m. GMT, and all the other T's you'll have to convert yourself. But, this chapter, actually the podcast will be out later, I think on Thursday, Friday, whenever Grim can get that done or edited. So just stay tuned on Grim's channel. But this chapter, this was one of the coolest, the most badass chapters of One Punch Man I've ever read. And in fact, I'm going to go out and say it was the coolest One Punch Man manga chapter that I've read. Just the direction, the character, the atmosphere, absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed the chapter. And so, as the chapter makes plainly obvious, we follow Zombie Man through the Monster Association as he hacks and slashes, slices and dices and shoots his way past hordes and hordes of monsters. Like he lands in like a shithole. He's absolutely stacked with monsters, and almost straight away we see his badass, ruthless nature walking in on random monsters and just like throwing this electrical box at him and just saying yo. And I was like, oh, this dude is a beast. And he just ends their careers without a second thought. And we also see his regenerative capacity almost immediately when he's impaled in several places by a random monster who identifies him as Zombie Man. The only monster that actually identifies him as Zombie Man. I mean, like the other monsters near the end, they're just like, oh yeah, you look like you might be a good fight against Pureblood, which is yet to come. But actually, even they identified him as Zombie Man. It was just Pureblood himself didn't know who Zombie Man was, being out of touch. You know, that whole vampire isolationist kind of thing. So this chapter, this character Zombie Man gave me a full Resident Evil vibe, reminding me a little of Leon from Resident Evil 4 with the whole kind of detective-y thing going on as well. And I liked how Zombie Man kept saying he's a detective and not a fighter, throwing some hate towards Child Emperor for somehow granting him the path with the most monsters to kill. So I thought that was pretty cool. But one of my favorite scenes comes at this point in the chapter, with some monsters trying to ambush, essentially trying to jump Zombie Man while he's kind of pulling out these little tentacles which had impaled him just previously. And you just see him yanking these out, walking towards them, and then suddenly all of our view is obscured by this pillar, and blood's just flying everywhere. We see the tails and the legs of the monsters. We see Zombie Man being obscured by the pillar, and then you just see Zombie Man walking out by his wands. He's walking out alone with his axe and his gun, past the pillar, obviously having shredded the monsters to pieces, and you just see them dead on the floor. So I thought that was very well directed, so much hype. Zombie Man is then recruited by some other monsters who want to kill their boss because they really don't get on well with him, and you can guess who his boss is. So feeling generally quite bored, Zombie Man's like, yeah, okay, I might as well go ahead and try and see what I can do. So he walks through some heavy iron looking doors to encounter Pureblood, a demon level monster who is a perfect fit for Zombie Man in a fight, just aesthetically and in terms of it being like this old school monster fight. You know, this Western, is it even Western? I'm not even sure. It's like this Frankenstein kind of vibe, this Halloween type of fight with a vampire and a freaking zombie. So I just thought aesthetically that was very pleasing. So while all the monsters cheer for Zombie Man to win this death match, Zombie Man tries to land some cheap shots on Pureblood whilst introducing himself. Unfortunately, Pureblood was thinking the exact same thing and bites out Zombie Man's carotid artery. He just like straight yanks it out with his teeth, and I was like, yo, goddamn, like, jeez, you best be careful what you eat. I mean, like, or eat respectfully, you know. So he then pushes Zombie Man away, disgusted by the taste of his blood, possibly a result of him being A, an experiment, and B, the fact that he's a freaking zombie. You know, his blood isn't gonna taste exactly fresh, even though it should regenerate and be quite fresh. I don't know how that is, because he's not actually like living dead. He just has incredible healing capacity. So he's not really a zombie. He just looks like a zombie when he's getting shredded and healing. So Zombie Man is far from finished, shows his regenerative skills yet again, and he just gets up. The hole in his neck just heals up, And Pureblood takes this moment, as any pure-blooded vampire in any movie, in any anime, manga, every pure-blooded vampire has to take a moment to deliver this speech about being the best of all monsters, about being a pure-blooded monster, a true monster, the king of monsters and all that stuff, the noblest of creatures. So I was like, alright, cool, that's kind of like death flags all over the place for you. You're basically dead at this point because you've given that speech, so you're gonna die. Zombie Man and Pureblood then start the real fight, throwing big shots at each other. And let's talk here first about Zombie Man's weapons. So he has, in this chapter we see, he has dual pistols kind of concealed in his sleeves, which are attached to these robotic kind of spring-loaded arms, which are beneath his sleeves, allowing him to kind of spring his guns into his palms whenever needed. So in emergencies, he's just like, and I'm just like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Maybe even Child Emperor's involvement there, I'm not too sure. It looks like something Child Emperor would have done, especially considering I'm pretty sure we saw Child Emperor have something similar. I can't remember. So he also has special magazines. So he has his normal magazines for these pistols, but he has these other magazines, like I assume for special situations, for his pistols aside from their normal ones. And these are filled with incredibly powerful shots. It looks like he's shooting a grenade, like it's a grenade launcher or something, out of his pistols, and they're so powerful that they actually break both of Zombie Man's arms from having to hold, and then the recoil shatter both of his forearms and I think even his humerus. His humerus or humerus eye. So he uses twin short blades in this chapter as well, which usually rest diagonally across the back of his shoulders, so Deadpool-y. And he also wields an axe, which he uses like a madman. He's a pure madman with an axe. So either way, Pureblood totally destroys Zombie Man in multiple ways, flicking his high impact bullets right back at him, literally braining Zombie Man and also puncturing a hole right through his chest, out of his back, and I assume fully destroying the top of his right lung. So Zombie Man gets up from these fatal injuries and just brushes them off, heals almost instantly, fixing his arms, his head, and his chest. And so the fight continues with Zombie Man using those twin blades now and getting his neck broken in the process, but also landing one of those big shots on Pureblood. So we see here that Pureblood also has a regenerative ability. I've messed that up 3 times now, but he also has a regenerative ability, ripping a poor monster into two to get to the nutritious blood, which heals him. Turns out that this wasn't enough though, so he breaks apart into hundreds of tiny bats, kind of shredding into Zombie Man whilst also sucking 2 more monsters dry of their blood. To Pureblood's surprise, Zombie Man heals very quickly yet again, striking a cool as fuck pose and telling the vampire to prepare his anus for a good old beating. And I was like, this dude is like, without the anusy kind of reference, just the way he looked at him and he's like, I'm gonna kick your ass. I was like, it reminded me a little bit of Ash from Evil Dead, when he's full badass in Evil Dead 3. I forgot what the title of the movie was, but Evil Dead 3, something like, I forgot what it's called, but yeah, he reminds me of Ash from Evil Dead. So I thought that was awesome, and always a good reference when you're referencing stuff like Evil Dead or being compared to stuff like that. So we get a mini time skip showing the result of the fight 30 minutes later, because it went on for a while, went on for 30 minutes. And we see blood splattered across the walls, across the monsters watching the fight, across the floor, and Pureblood is there lying in pieces on the floor, his dying breath complaining about how he killed Zombie Man multiple times only for him to return. And Zombie Man actually confirms that he was, killed around 200 times, but for this battle of endurance, his one victory is what mattered. It didn't matter how many times he was forced to die, it was his one victory which counted. So Zombie Man then prepares to leave, with the other monsters preparing to jump him yet again. However, our favourite zombie detective bends the bolt across the door so no one can escape, turns around and proceeds to massacre every living creature in that room, the screams fading away in the chasms of the Monster Association. And I was like, this is poetry in motion. This is so good. So Zombie Man walks out alone, his appearance completely fitting of his title, with a whole chunk of his skull missing and his arm, one of his arms at least, torn to shreds, actually tearing off the bone and sinew completely disjointing from his friggin' mid-arm, mid-humerus. And he notices this and he's like, shit, I gotta wait a few minutes for that to heal. So he waits a few minutes for all of himself to heal up, and he heals real quick. He heals while listening to a transmission from Child Emperor, actually conveying he has secured Waganma, and the other heroes are to continue fighting as they had planned, but not delve too far into the monster association for fear of walking into the top level monsters. So once again, good strategic awareness by Child Emperor, but also showcasing how quickly Zombie Man has repaired himself from damage where he's like missing half of his skull, where he's missing an eye, missing his arm, and it just rejoins itself. So awesome stuff. And the chapter ends with Zombie Man taking up arms. See what I did there? And preparing to fight all over again. Pure badass. I didn't really have any interest in Zombie Man before this chapter, but One and Murata have done an excellent job of making Zombie Man the coolest mofo on the planet. So let me know what you guys thought of this chapter. Let me know what you guys thought of this review. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Definitely check out the podcast. I cannot emphasize that enough because we get off subject all the time. We just talk about random shit, and mostly obviously the chapter, but it's so off kilter, so genuine that it's just so good. You need to check it out. All of the guys will be there on there: Kishin, Zonin, Grim, Satsuki, myself, Matt, everybody else, Bang. So do definitely check that out. I'll see you guys in a bit.